Laser sights will make you a more accurate and confident shooter by providing visual feedback on sight alignment and trigger control. Crimson Trace, making laser sight standard equipment. Learn more at crimsontrace.com.
Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, it's another win for gun rights, the future of shooting sports, cool new products, your range reports, and more. Call in now, 1-TOM-TALK-GUN. Now, here's Tom.
Well. Hey, it's Tom Gresham. Glad that you could be with us. It's Gun Talk, of course, and we're going to be talking about guns for the next several hours, having a bunch of fun, talking about the shooting sports and getting people involved in what's going on in gun rights battles, and talk about new guns and the guns that you're taking out to the range and shooting, and get your range reports on what's happening. I do have to give you, well, let's start off with just some thanks, because, I'm not sure that any of us can get through a day or a week without the help of some friends. And about, 4 hours ago, I was a 2-hour drive away from where I'm sitting right now, and we realized, I was up in the mountains of Idaho, and realized that all the 4th of July crowd was coming up there, and we were planning on, it's worked very well before. This is an inside baseball thing. We were going to use our connection through Verizon Wireless and do the radio show, and it works great. And they said, oh yeah, but everything always slows down around 4th of July weekend because we have all those people who come up here. I went, what? So we jumped up and started packing and closed up our little cabin and jumped in the car, drove 2 hours down here. And our friends, Mike and Andrew, are cleaning up our cabin behind us. And our friends Ron and Vicky down in Boise, we said, hey, we're coming. Can we use your place? Yes, of course. And I said, oh, yeah, by the way, I need some Cat 5 cable to do this. They ran out to the store and bought some for us. So through the help of a lot of friends, we're actually on the air today. It's, I tell you, it's fun. It's great having good friends. I've been having a ball up there in the cabin in Idaho for a couple of weeks. And I'll tell you about some of the conversations and some of the things we did. We did a little bit of shooting. We did a little bit of training. And that's always an interesting part of the whole thing. So it's been grand. And I hope that your weeks have been going along well. Of course, it is the 4th of July weekend, or as we prefer to say, Independence Day, which I think is a much, much better way to put it. A lot of things going on. And, when you're talking about Independence Day, I think you need to talk about the Second Amendment and the continuing and continuous fight to preserve it, to reclaim it, and when possible, to expand it. And there's no group I will offer doing more about all of those things than the Second Amendment Foundation. And joining me right now to talk about that is Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation with some pretty darn good news from the last week. Hey, Alan.
Hey, Tom. Great to be with you, and thanks for those kind words.
Well, I'll tell you what, you had some really good news coming out of the Supreme Court this past week, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did. One of the Second Amendment Foundation's cases, we won it, known as Binderup versus Attorney General. We won it in the Third Circuit Court of Appeals in Bonk, and the government under Obama, Justice Department, appealed to the Supreme Court to try and overturn our victory. And, of course, the Trump administration, unfortunately, went along and kept the case alive. Mm-hmm. And on Monday, the Supreme Court chose not to hear the government's, move to rehear the case, and it upholds our victory at the Third Circuit Court in Bonk. And the Binderup case is very important because, as you know, the anti-gunners in this country have been doing everything they can to squeeze out as many people from Second Amendment rights as possible to limit the number of people that can own firearms. Mm-hmm. And over time, we've had this situation in our country where now a lot of misdemeanors disqualify you from gun ownership, as well as, nonviolent felonies where you used to be able to get your rights restored. Now you can't. Right. And so this case is very important because we won this case that you can't lose your rights, your Second Amendment rights for the rest of your life for nonviolent, non-real serious crime. And in this case, it was 2 people that were convicted of misdemeanors that never got any jail time, but because the sentences in their states could have been sentenced to more than a year in prison, even though it was a misdemeanor because of an indeterminate sentence type thing. The federal government treats it as a high-class felony and disbars these people from gun ownership for the rest of their lives. And we overturned that.
Let me jump in there because let me make sure everybody understands. The way it works is if you, under federal law, if you're convicted of a felony, you can't own a gun for life. Now, there used to be a way you could get your rights restored, but we're working on getting that back. But let's put that aside for the moment. But what's happened is they've said, okay, a felony generally is a crime where you could be sentenced to a year or more in prison, and they've expanded that or interpreted it to mean that if some misdemeanors, it's possible on the books to be sentenced to more than a year for conviction of a misdemeanor. And these gentlemen were convicted of a minor, nonviolent misdemeanor. Then they didn't serve any jail time at all, but they lost their gun rights for life. And so SAF challenged that. And now that is the law of, or at least of that area, is that circuit. Now, what happens now, Alan, is that's not like national law, federal law yet.
Well, it is definitely now the law of the land in the Third Circuit, and of course
Right.
will be used in other circuits as well to say, hey, the Third Circuit said this, so we should say it as well. It was sort of bittersweet for us because if the Supreme Court took the case, I think we probably would have won it at the Supreme Court level as well,
Exactly.
and then it would have applied nationally. I want to point out there were two justices that wanted to hear the case for the purpose of overturning it, and that was Justice Sotomayor and Justice Ginsburg. Obviously, those shows that neither one are far from being friends of the Second Amendment or firearms civil rights.
Correct. Now, at the same time, we had the Supreme Court refuse to hear another case, which is not terrible. It just, I think maybe we could say maybe puts off being able to come back and revisit that. But what was interesting to me was the dissent by Justices Thomas and Gorsuch. Very powerful dissents in that case, weren't they?
They were very powerful dissents, and of course the great thing is it now shows us that Gorsuch is true to his word that he supports Second Amendment rights and will be a leader to protect and expand the Second Amendment at the U.S. Supreme Court. That's really important. I wish the court did hear the case. It is known as Peruta, out in California, which has to do with the right to carry. And Second Amendment Foundation was actually a party to that suit because the Richards case went up on appeal with it, and we had brought the Richards case. So it would have affected both Peruta and Richards in this decision, and we were looking forward to filing a brief in the case as a party to the suit. But this court chose not to hear it. But it postpones the Supreme Court making the decision on the right to carry. Second Amendment Foundation has another case known as Wren out of Washington, D.C. It's working its way up through the appeals court now, and I'm hoping that that's the one the Supreme Court will take.
And the idea here is the state of California is saying, yeah, you can get a permit, but you have to show good cause. Of course, that leaves the door open. It's interesting. They'll say, well, and in California, they'll say, well, if you're carrying large sums of cash, you can get a carry permit. But not if just to protect your children. So we value cash more than we do your children.
Well, yes, Tom, but it's worse than that. In some cases, our case of Richards, which is the companion case that was, made us a party to it, was against Yolo County in California, where the sheriff there refused to issue it to anybody. In fact, he won't even give out an application, so you can't even fill one out. So they may want to argue that's good cause. I don't argue that's good cause. I argue that's a violation of due process as well, and it's obviously a ban on the right to carry, period. So I really wish that the court did hear this case, but we're going to keep fighting and getting one to the Supreme Court to protect that right to carry.
But we did, as you say, we got a real good look at Judge Gorsuch with his well-written dissent with Justice Thomas. And that speaks very well. If we can get one or two more Trump appointees to SCOTUS, I would breathe a lot easier.
I would too. Depending on which judge you're replacing. If you're replacing like a Sotomayor or a Ginsburg, one judge is probably all we really need to get to where we want to go. If you're replacing a Kennedy, we might need 1.5 judges to get to where you really want to go. But then again, I shouldn't say that because Kennedy may be just fine. I think we're actually, on some of our gun rights cases, we're short a judge right now. And I don't know, quite frankly, if it's the Chief Justice Roberts or it's Kennedy. But somehow between the two of them, I think that's why the court isn't hearing some of these cases. They don't rule against us, but we just don't get a ruling for us.
Which, at the very least, it's not a ruling against us. It means that we can come back in with another case another time.
Correct.
Okay. Well, Alan, thank you so much. Very good work with this case, the Bender case. And I know that SAF has, do you even know how many cases you have working right now?
We're somewhere around 30 active ones in the federal courts right this minute.
Holy cow. That's a lot of work, a lot of money, too. So I'm going to once again encourage people, if you're trying to figure out some group to contribute to or to make a donation to, I think SAF is doing some really good things there.
Thank you,
Alan,
Tom.
thank you so much. Listen, you take care, my friend, and a great Independence Day.
You too.
All right, take care. 866-TALK-GUN or just dial 1-TOM-TALK-GUN. The lines are open. Looking for your thoughts about Independence Day and also range reports. We'll be right back.
Nosler has been a leader in bullets and ammunition for decades and keeps growing with new product introductions that follow this tradition. Accurate, highly effective bullets and ammo for long-range shooting, precision rifle competition, and big game hunting. To be the first to hear about new product releases and promotions, follow Nosler on Facebook and Instagram and become part of the conversation. You won't settle, and neither will we. Nosler.com.
For 36 years, the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance has been fighting to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping for sportsmen from coast to coast. Today, we are under constant attack from extremist animal rights groups who want to end your ability to hunt in the U.S. Join us to protect our sporting heritage and our way of life outdoors. To join or for more information on how you can help, go to ussportsman.org. That's ussportsman.org.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you know you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
Since 1937, Ducks Unlimited has led the charge on wetlands and waterfowl conservation. Wetlands reduce the effects of flooding and recharge our drinking water, but perhaps most importantly, they allow us to experience what makes the outdoors so great. Band together to rescue our wetlands.
For more than 70 years, Timney Triggers has been enhancing the shooter's experience. Whether it's a local competition, a day at the range, or even the hunt of a lifetime. Setting the standard in aftermarket triggers, Timney is now producing more than 170 models of triggers for bolt-action rifles, shotguns, AR rifles, and semi-automatic rifles. Proudly made in the USA since 1946. Find your new trigger at TimneyTriggers.com.
All right, back with 866-TALK-GUN or just Tom Talk Gun. What have you been shooting? What are you taking to the range? And have you taken advantage of some of these cool deals that are available right now? Really incredible discounts and rebates and everything else from the gun manufacturers. Pretty neat stuff going on out there. Just finished 2 weeks up in the mountains in Idaho, and I will tell you what, let me hold that thought. I want to tell you about, we did a little shooting, did a little training, did a little, we actually did a lot of everything. Had a good time. Enjoyed the cool weather. Now we have to go back to cleaning up that mess of a burned house. But, hey, first things first. First of all, line 3, John's with us out of Huntsville, Alabama. John, what did you see in Alaska?
I saw a Browning .50 caliber rifle in a museum in Ketchikan, Alaska, and I thought of you when I saw it. But the write-up that was with the rifle said it's the most powerful sporting firearm in the world, and it takes a 750-grain bullet at 3/4 per second at 1 mile, and it says it will group 7 inches grouping, and it says it weighs 40 pounds and has the kick of a mule. And then the other interesting thing that was with it, it says the gun is one of 7 ever made by designer Al Story, and the engraving was done by Kenneth Hurst, the oldest living engraver of Colt firearms.
Wow. Well, that's pretty darn cool. I have not seen that. I've not been to that museum in Ketchikan. I've been to Ketchikan, but have not been in the museum. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, obviously, sometimes when you get into these museums, what they write about a gun may be slightly less than accurate.
Right, exactly.
But you cut them a little slack, you know. That's pretty neat.
That's
what were you doing up there?
My wife and I were taking a 30th anniversary cruise, and so we had different excursions planned, and that was actually at called Totem Bright Totem Pole Park, and they had a little gift shop, and one of the rooms off of the gift shop had all kinds of rifles and stuff from the Gold Rush days.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, how long a trip was that for you?
It was 7 days. We went to we started in Vancouver, Canada, and our first stop was Ketchikan, and then we did Juneau and Skagway, and then went through Glacier Bay and on up to Whittier is where we departed the ship.
Did you fly back from there?
We did, yes, sir. Flew back from Anchorage.
Right. What a fun trip. That is a great trip. The Inside Passage is just spectacular, isn't it?
It sure is. Pictures don't do it justice. I tell you, there's a lot of beautiful, God's country out there, but I had never seen it in person. So when you see it with your own eyes, it's amazing.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I appreciate the heads up on that. If anybody's going to Ketchikan, go take a look at that. John, thank you for the call, and hey, I'm glad you had a great trip. Thank you, sir. I had a weird conversation back and forth with a group, and we were talking, some of the folks, and this is a group I'm associated with online, and they're talking about open carry versus concealed carry. And you get into the same old deal of, if you're open carrying, you're going to just be a target, you're going to invite somebody. And I'm going, yeah, really? Where does that happen? Hardly ever. And then you got folks who say, yeah, but the open carry guys who carry the ARs and the AKs are causing problems. And I go, yeah, I'm not sure I disagree with that. But then we had a guy that said, if I hadn't been carrying, I'm not sure what I would have done, but had 3 guys pull up in a truck. It's just him and his girlfriend when he was younger. He said, I could just see the hatred in their eyes. You could tell they were up to no good. And he was glad he had his gun. Didn't have to pull it, didn't have to shoot anybody. But they saw it, and they left. And my comment to that was, some people will say, well, he didn't do anything. You didn't have to worry about it. Why are you so scared? And go, if you've been there, you've seen it, and you go, yeah, these guys are up to seriously no good. And my comment was, I would bet you dollars to donuts that one or more of those guys had a criminal record, and the police knew all 3 of them. Then we had a guy comment. It was interesting. And this is the point of it. He's saying, well, cause I said, look, there are times, it's complicated, but there are times when it would be legal to shoot an unarmed person who was representing a threat. And the guy says, he says, there's actually no time when it's legal to shoot somebody. It might be justified, but it's not legal. I'm going, what? Pedantic, semantics, what are you talking about? And then I get this note from him. He says, can't believe that you're talking about killing God's beautiful children. I'm going, what? It was weird. Have you ever had a conversation like that where you're just going, what are you talking about? Are you so insulated from the world that all you see is that every human walking around is God's beautiful children? I mean, can we look at an ISIS video of them cutting the heads off the people, or putting people in cages and then setting them on fire, or putting them in the cages and drowning them, or, raping dozens or hundreds of women and then killing them? There is a point, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that it's true, but it is true. There is a point at which you say, okay, if there's a choice to be made between somebody like that and me still being around in the next 2 minutes, 1 minute, 10 seconds, choice is going to be me. There are some truly evil, awful people in the world. I just puzzle at a mindset that could just say basically everybody is God's children and they're just fine, and how could you harm someone? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody like that? And if so, how do you manage that? What do you do with that? How do you... I'm not really sure that I fully understand how to address that. Or do you just shrug and go, well, you know what? That's just the way it is. I can't do anything about that. I can't help this person. Because I'm not sure, and it may be the basis for some people who just say, I don't understand the whole gun thing. I don't understand the whole self-defense thing. If you come to it from a viewpoint of everybody is inherently, intrinsically good, and sometimes a few people do a few bad things, maybe, I don't know, I'm just puzzled as to how to go about addressing that. And if you have any thoughts on that, if you ever run into that, I would sure love to know about that. I also, I got stopped by the police a couple of days ago in this little bitty town. Yeah, speed trap. I got let off with a warning, but I was carrying, and I had to explain to him I was carrying. He said, not a problem, and I'm reaching back, get my wallet, which is over there by the handgun. In this case, it was a revolver, .357 Magnum, and no problem. But it does kind of lead us to where we're going to be going. We're going to pick this up on the back side here when we come back in just a minute of some police officers evidently, clearly, are not very well trained as to what to do when they run into somebody who has a carry permit. We just saw the effects of that. We just saw the video of that. We just saw the case of that. And we were talking about that. And I guess the question is, what does that do? We always try to bring it home. What's your takeaway? What do you do in a police stop, a traffic stop? You've got a gun. How do you handle it? How do you communicate? And also, frankly, perhaps maybe it's time for each and every one of us to talk with our police departments and say, what is your training for your officers when they come across somebody who has a legal gun? We'll talk about all that when we come back. 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.
Sign up for our Gun Talk newsletter and join the Truth Squad at www.guntalk.com. Now, back to Gun Talk with Washington Times opinion page regular contributor Tom Gresham.
All right, back with you. 866-TALK-GUN is the magic number to get you in here. At the risk of irritating some police officers, and I try not to do that, I have a lot of police officer friends, but the ones that I know who understand this will understand exactly where we're going to go with this. This all falls under the heading of how not to get killed by the police officers when you're not doing anything wrong. Say what? Yeah, joining me right now is Jeff Knox from the Firearms Coalition. Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Hi, Tom. Great to be with you again.
Well, I appreciate it. A disturbing case, fair to say. Explain what we're talking about here, please.
Philando Castile, who was killed in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area a year ago, and it was a tragic mess. And personally, like you say, it's very easy to play Monday morning quarterback and to say what somebody should have done and critique that. But in this case, as far as I've studied this case up one side and down the other, and the officer just didn't do his job, and a man died. And the job that the officer was supposed to be doing was controlling the situation. And he didn't control the situation. He let it very quickly spin out of control and pumped 7 rounds into Philando Castile from inches away, missed with 2 of those 7, with a 4-year-old girl in the back seat of the car. he panicked and just went ballistic and killed this man who was a licensed concealed carrier, who identified that, informed the officer politely that he had a firearm on him, and the officer very calmly said, okay, just don't reach for it then, but had just told him to give him his license. Mm-hmm. And the way I read what happened next was that the officer took the information about the gun in stride, and then it spiraled in his head to the point of completely out of control. Because from the moment that Castile told him that he had a gun, and Officer Yanez replied, okay, just don't reach for it then, from that moment to shots being fired was just a matter of a few seconds. And what happened in those seconds, there's some debate and discussion. Apparently, Mr. Castile was trying to obey the officer. He was saying, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just reaching for my wallet. And the next thing you know, the officer had his gun out and was pumping rounds into the car.
It was 5 seconds. It was 5 seconds from when he said, all right, don't pull it out. And Castile says, I'm not pulling it out. And the thing is, we've got dash cam video of this. Before right. Officer Yanez is shooting 7 shots, 5 hits from inches away. There was somewhere along the way, there's this major breakdown. And of course, they also have this. For those who don't remember, this is the case where Castile's girlfriend started doing live Facebook video. Probably not a bad move on her part to try to at least document something
right.
before. I'm sorry.
Honestly,
here's the thing that gets me.
I think she started that Facebook video. She tried to start it at the moment that they got pulled over, and it didn't kick in until several seconds later. And at that point, he had already been shot.
So here's what's happened with this. Officer Geronimo Yanez, I hope I'm getting that right, has been cleared of all charges in the shooting death of Mr. Castile. You
right.
say in your article that is a travesty. Why do you say that?
Yep. On several levels. Now, on the one hand, as a law and order, blue line supporting kind of guy that I am, I look at this and I look at Geronimo Castile or Geronimo Yanez, and I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think that there was any malicious intent in what he did. I don't think that he needs to go to prison for decades. But I think that the justice system needed to say what you did was wrong, criminally wrong, and there's a criminal penalty to be paid for that. Both from the perspective of reassuring the public that police officers are held accountable for their actions, and from establishing with police officers that you have to do what's right every time, or there's a real penalty to pay, and that was thrown out the window with this acquittal, I think.
Well, what you got here, let's breaking it down. It's a traffic stop. The driver does exactly what we're always told, identifies himself. I've got a concealed carry permit. I am carrying today. Officer says, okay, just don't pull it out. He says, okay, I'm not going to pull it out. Officer tells him, get your driver's license. He reaches for his driver's license, and then for whatever reason, something clicked in this officer's head, and he starts yelling, don't pull it out. He says, I'm not pulling it out. He says, don't pull it out. I'm not pulling it out. Bang, 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 bang. So, I mean, it was like this complete breakdown.
Right.
And
you know what it reminds me of, Tom?
What's that?
You know what it really reminds me of? Walking in the woods with my wife. And she casually comments that, oh gosh, that stick looks just like a snake. Oh my God, that's a snake! You know? That her initial response to it didn't register initially. My wife hates snakes. She hates them biblically. And that's what I kind of see happening with Officer Yanez, that the news of the firearm went into his head and didn't really register. And as it was registering, this guy's hand is reaching down where Yanez can't really see it as well, and it just exploded from there. And that's what I kind of see. And part of it is and
I think we got Jeff at a dropout point there. Hey Jeff, look, we're losing your phone, but I'm going to go ahead and head to the break here. I got to do that. Thank you so much, Jeff Knox. If you don't know, the Firearms Coalition is a worthwhile opportunity to go check that out. firearmscoalition.org. You can see more of Jeff's work there. He is, of course, the son of Neil Knox, who you may know if you're a gun rights student at all. 866-TALK-GUN. I'll be right back.
The Black Hills. There's nothing like it on Earth. The kind of place where characters become legends. Wild Bill Hickok, Crazy Horse, Calamity Jane. Pick any part of the world and you'll find people go there to make it their own. But this is where people come to get made. This is the place that made the people who make the best ammo on Earth. Black Hills Ammunition.
Savage just made the modern sporting rifle better. Available in 4 variations, the MSR-15 Patrol and Recon and MSR-10 Hunter and Long Range. All with 5R rifling for easier cleaning and enhanced accuracy. Correct gas system links for reliability and reduced recoil. Upgraded trigger system and corrosion-resistant barrels. Savage MSRs. Better comes standard. See more at savagearms.com or ask your local gun dealer to see the Savage MSR rifles.
If you carry a gun, you need training. Your concealed carry class was definitely not training. But time, money, and obligations keep you from spending days at a shooting school. The trusted folks at Gun Talk can help. Concealed Carry 1, our DVD featuring the VADA Group, covers what gun, what holster, how to carry, where to wear your gun, and much more. Visit shopguntalk.com. That's shopguntalk.com. Look, this really is life and death. Learn how to stay aware, how to get away, and how to fight if you must. At shopguntalk.com, you can get the 2 DVD set, including Fighting with the 1911 with Tiger McKee. No matter what gun you carry, this vital training info can save your life. Learn the draw, the stance, reloading, vital gear from Gun Talk. That's shopguntalk.com. shopguntalk.com.
The Springfield Armory SOCOM 16 CQB is a serious package of .308 firepower with a long military background. 10 inches shorter than the standard M1A with a standard 10-round or the optional 20-round magazine. It's a thunderous close-quarters battle rifle that stops, fights, fast. Ghost ring rear and tritium front sights with a 5-position adjustable cheek piece. The SOCOM 16 CQB is ready for anything. Springfield-Armory.com.
Another interesting case this past week. A federal judge in San Diego issued a preliminary injunction Thursday against the enforcement of a ban on magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. He also he beat up California's gun laws while he was at it. U.S. District Judge Roger T. Benitez, a George Bush appointee, I'm reading this off of the conservative firing line, noted in his 66-page order that, quote, California's gun laws are complicated. Proposition 63 adds one more layer of complexity. Perhaps, he says, Too much complexity. In California, the state has enacted over the span of 2 decades an incrementally more burdensome web of restrictions on the rights of law-abiding responsible gun owners to buy, borrow, acquire, modify, use, or possess ammunition magazines able to hold more than 10 rounds. The language used, the internally referenced provisions, the interplay among them, and the plethora of other gun regulations have made the state's magazine laws difficult to understand for all but the most learned experts. In other words, there was a ban going to take place where all magazines that would hold more than 10 rounds were banned. Well, that's been put on hold. We'll see what happens with that, but it's going to be very interesting to watch that process. We'll get back to talking about traffic stops when you're carrying in just a minute, but first I want to get Jerry in here on line 3. I believe it's line 3. Yep, in Idaho. Hey, Jerry.
Yeah, hey. I got one of those new 10-millimeter Ruger 1911s.
Ooh, talk to me.
Yeah, and it shoots great. And, excuse me, I'm very impressed with the way they did it. You know, it's got the bushingless ramped barrel, adjustable sights. And when I took it out, I shot various loads of usually 180 grain, some 200s, and they all impact about the same place, and they shot beautifully. And then out at longer ranges, it was especially accurate. I'm impressed what they did. They did their homework.
Is this your first 10-millimeter?
No, I had a Delta Elite years ago.
Okay.
And I didn't keep it because somebody else wanted it bad, and I didn't feel like it was a strong gun. You know, it had a few problems. I mean, you know, they might crack the frame and all that.
Yeah,
but
they did. Of course, they brought that back out and reinforced it. But
right.
I think you're right. There were some problems with those early ones, yeah.
Yeah, it was an early one. And it shot well, too, though. I mean, it did that. And then I've had Glock, and I have a Den Wesson also.
Okay. Now, see here, you want to also talk about the idea of people who wouldn't want you to protect them. What were your thoughts on that deal?
I'll tell you what the deal was. I have a friend, and she was out of state. She living out of state, and she was raped, and she knew who the guy was. She put him in prison. The guy got out on appeal, and the prosecuting attorney called her, but she had moved since back where I live now in Idaho. And she called me or talked to me, and she said he was getting out on appeal. And I said, do you want a weapon of any sort, you know, even a baseball bat, knife, anything? And she said, no, I wouldn't use it. And, you know, this means she's a victim, in my opinion. And so, you know, but my question is this, would she fight for her, would she want me to defend her? You see, if I was there, would she want me to defend her? Or would she fight for a baby in her arms?
Well, that's really the question, because I found that to be true when I'm talking to women who say, "Well, I don't think I could hurt anybody. I couldn't shoot anybody." I say, "Okay, what if they're coming after your baby?" "Oh, then I would just shoot the son." You know, and then you go, "Whoa!"
I know, and you know, this is the question. It's like, and this is kind of, you know, she should have a deal that says, "I'm a victim. Kill me, because I don't want to suffer." I mean, that's kind of crude, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, it is, but it gets to the point. And look, I appreciate the call. I mean, first of all, I appreciate the range report on the Ruger 1911 and 10-millimeter. Cool gun. And I love 10 millimeters. A lot of people are discovering what they're really all about, but also you make some excellent points. People who say, yeah, I don't think I could hurt anybody. Well, yeah, what if it was your baby? Oh, that'd be different, right? Well, here's the thing. I'll throw this out. If something happens to you, it happens to your baby. If something happens to you, it happens to your children. If something happens to you, it happens to your family, because they all suffer grievously because you didn't think enough of them to protect yourself. Oh, that's a different way of thinking of things, isn't it? Yes, it is. 866-TALK-GUN gets you in here. Goodness gracious. Have you ever been stopped by the police, traffic stop while you're carrying? How did you handle it? Just give me a holler. Just dial Tom Talk Gun. All right, we're talking about what do you do when you're stopped by the police and you're carrying? just had this case. I just find it very disturbing. Officer shoots this guy. Well, I guess he shot 7 times, hit him 5 times. After that, the citizen said, "Hey, officer, I have a permit to carry. I do have a gun with me." The officer said, "Okay, just don't pull it out." He says, "Okay, well, I'm not going to pull it out." But then he starts, I don't know what's going on. It's very disturbing, very weird. So Ross has some thoughts about that on line 2 out of Pensacola. Hey, Ross, what do you think?
Hi. Well, yeah. Well, I've been pulled over. Was pulled over once, and when not knowing what frame of mind the cop's in, and I think I would. Well, I'll just tell you what I did, or what I would recommend. When they ask for your ID, you give them your driver's license, you give them your concealed permit, and you let them take it from there. You don't say, "I got a gun on me," or "I'm carrying," or anything like that. You give him, when you give him your permit, he knows that there's a possibility of you might have a gun, but he also knows you're legit. And,
well, in this case, Ross, what it appears happened was that the officer says, need to see your driver's license, your ID, and when the guy was reaching for his ID, that's when the officer thought he was reaching for a gun and shot him.
Yeah.
So, you've got that situation. If you don't already have it out when the officer gets to the car, now you have he's telling you to get your ID. And the thing is, in some states you're required to tell them right off the bat, hey, I am carrying, I have a permit. So we've got that situation.
Well, you can't anticipate how the cop is going to interpret what you're telling him.
Right.
But when he says don't reach, when they say don't, you just stop. You put your hands on the cap.
I agree with that, but there have been many, many, many cases of police giving completely conflicting instructions. Don't move, show me your ID. Don't move, raise your hands. Well, you pick. Which one am I supposed to do here? What one of them, maybe either one of them gets me shot. So and look, Ross, I appreciate the call. Thank you, sir. Here's a thought. How about you just do what you know needs to be done regardless of what he's telling you to do, which is keep your hands on the steering wheel. And literally keep your hands on the steering wheel. And if he says, "I need to see your ID," you say, "Okay." And that's when I think you have the conversation. Even if he says, "Show me your ID," say, "I'm not moving my hands until we have reached an agreement. Because as I've told you, I am carrying a firearm today. It's a legal firearm. I don't want to move my hands until we are in agreement as to how we're going to proceed on this." And I think maybe, yes, the officer has to control the situation, but the truth of it is, for you to keep breathing, maybe you need to control the situation. And I know there are police going, "Oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah." Hey, this guy got shot 5 times by an officer after he told him, done exactly what he's supposed to do. "I have a permit. I am carrying a gun today." Officer says, "Okay, don't pull it out." "Okay, I won't pull it out." "Show me your ID." He reaches for an ID. "Don't pull it out." "I'm not pulling it out." "Don't pull it out." "I'm not pulling it out." Bang, 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 bang. That's exactly how and you got it all on video right there. There's a bell curve in everything. In every profession, there's a bell curve. You got the super good ones, you got the most of them in the middle, and you got some that are not very good. You don't know who you're dealing with at any given time. You don't know where on the bell curve this officer lies. I'm just telling you, you might want to give some thought to, okay, what am I going to do? Yeah, I know. They want to be in control. They want you to be compliant. It's a big word for them these days. He wasn't compliant. But you also want to be breathing at the end of it. 866-TALK-GUN. Lots of cool stuff coming up. Don't go far.